seen it a million times.
Good morning. Welcome back to American Truck Simulator. I'm David Steele, and here's me truck. And yes, we are in SCS's latest truck, the Mack Pinnacle. Let's jump back into the cabin. There we go. That's a little easier to drive from up here. Okay, it is very early in the morning. It's 2:30, but not the 2:30 that you go and see the dentist. And we are hauling, we've got about 40 miles left, maybe give or take, maybe not even that. Let's switch to a drive-by view. You can see what I'm hauling. I forget what it's called exactly. Well, cannot drive very well. But we are in the Yellow Beast. Well, it's a Yellow Beast. I have a few. And I'll jump back in the cabin. I'm struggling. I always struggle to drive third person. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and get on the engine brake now. We're using the stock sounds for the Mack Pinnacle, but we are not using the stock engine or the stock transmission. And the reason for that is because today I am testing, well, a number of different engines actually, and 3 new Mack gearboxes, Mack transmissions. This is the 13-speed. There's a 9-speed and an 18-speed I'm also working on too. Go ahead and get, okay, adjusted in the range. I'm using my own trailer here today, because I kind of wanted something to be proper yellow, because who doesn't like yellow? Actually, we'll stay in this lane after all. Okay. Alright, now under the hood is the 2007 generation Mack MP7. We're using the 365 variant here today. And the reason why we're using an older MP7 is because, well, when the Mack Pinnacle was first released around about 2006, it was only available with the MP7. You couldn't get it with the MP8. In fact, I don't even know if the MP8 was in production back in 2006. Now, I believe that after a pretty short space of time, the MP8 was made available. And a little later, the MP7 was dropped from the Pinnacle range. So you get the MP8, or today, you get the MP8, or you get the MP8. Or you, I guess, repower it and aftermarket install something. Now, I added support for the Mack Pinnacle pretty much the day that it was made available. I added support to the Steele Productions Engine Pack, I should say, the day that it was released. And I'd also been given a request to work on the Mack MP10. That took a little digging to find some information about the MP10, but I found a document. In fact, I found a couple of documents which give me a torque curve. And after we've dropped off the cargo, we'll go ahead. We'll head to the shop, and I'll show you some of the engines and gearboxes that I'm working on. This is the first test of the 13-speed. Got a 370 final drive today, actually not a 355. I was going to go with a 355, but decided I'd go with a slightly shorter final drive. The Pinnacle is very tempting to use it for more of a vocational type cargo, and that means basically going off-road. Let's go ahead and put the beacons on, I think. We've got beacons on the trailer as well as on the truck. I don't know why the low loaders you can get don't have beacons on the back, but whenever I buy one or use one, I always install it. I mean, it's 3:40 in the morning. I'd rather use the beacon than, well, we run into someone. Excuse me. There's a big yawn. Probably going to miss this light when I get there, but who knows? We might make it. I don't think we will. Okay, we'll get off the power all the same. Oh, what do you know? This is still green. Okay. Oh, bags of smash. Bags of smash, as in a bit too much speed, but we scrub that off with the service brakes. There we go. But I really wanted to go back and install or work on 2007 generation engines, because 2007 was when I can get hold of information for the MP8, and that's when it was introduced to the Pinnacle. So, show the engines in a second, and I have information on the 2010 to 2013 MP10. I believe this was available till about 2017, 2018 when Mack basically took it off sale. I don't feel like doing that. I don't really. We'll do that one. We'll go for the easy maneuvering one. Okay, clear everything here, which is good. I didn't bother with the hood mirrors, which I kind of regret. So, if you've got ATS, have you tried the new Pinnacle? And if so, do you like it? Do you think it's a bit too similar to the Anthem? I mean, the interior is, the dashboard at least, appears to be identical. That's not a bad thing. I don't dislike the dash in the slightest. I'm going to turn off my beacon, I think. The truck design looks similar. I mean, it's definitely a Mack. I've got the classic grille, and I'm making a mess of the tyres here. I've got the classic grille and the very basic bumper. I've often spec'd my machines out to be something of a fleet truck. The one thing I will say, the headlights, you've got a choice of two. You've got LED lights, and you've got the classic lights. I've gone with the classic lights here, but I still have an LED bulb showing, which a little disappointed with. I'd like to see that be a kind of yellow bulb, but I really feel like I'm picking faults with it. Turn off the lights here. Let's turn off the engine. Right, let's deliver this cargo. Yeah, pretty short haul today. 112 miles. We only use 21 gallons of fuel, but still, that's about 5 miles per gallon. That's not. It's not bad. It's a short trip, and short trips are a little harder mileage. So hey, I'm not going to argue with that. Right, let's go ahead and plan my trip to a shop. Well, it didn't take much planning, did it? Mind you, it's more planning than some of the people I've worked with can do. Huge disclaimer, I don't mean anyone I've worked with today, obviously. Of course not. Right, it's also a figure of speech. Okay. Right, let's go ahead and maneuver around here. As far as final drives have gone, I'm going for right now 355, 370, 390, 411 and 433, and they are most definitely Eaton Fuller inspired final drives. If I find a definitive guide or more information on the final drives that Mack tended to use, I will absolutely use those. But I imagine they're not going to be too different. I know I've included a lot of final drives with the Eaton Fuller, with the 10s and the 9 speeds I've included in the engine pack. I don't have a problem including all those final drives, but it does get a little fussy. And quite often, you know, if you really wanted a 336, say, but you've got a choice between a 325 and a 355, they're probably good enough. I'm always difficult to justify not including almost every step of final drive. But how often do I pick a 336 over a 342? I just generally don't, and if my choice is a 325 to a 355, I'm probably going to go with, well, again, it depends on why I'm choosing a 336. It might be I'm speccing a truck for California, and a 325 is just a little tall for cruising at, say, 55 in my preferred gear. So it's always going to be a compromise. I could drive at 54, I could drive at 56, although clearly I wouldn't recommend that. But I'm just, how often do I really have to get that granular? And I dare say 390, 411, 433, that is pretty granular, but when you start looking at the vocational ratios that you might want for a modern truck, often having a bit more granular helps there, but for line haul duties, it doesn't appear to be quite so critical. So that's my thought process there. But if you have an opinion, go ahead and let me know in the comments below, because I'm most interested to see what people want. Because at the end of the day, I can do either. The amount of work involved is not that much more to fill in the interim. But I think for the sort of 9, 13 and 18 speeds, certainly the 9, there's a big gap between most of the ratios. And so it doesn't appear to be that critical for slow speed work. I could be wrong.
Here we are.
Okay, here we are. Go ahead and maneuver around here. Now I haven't got the 9 speeds. I don't think I've got that perfected. I think I've given it too many crawler gears, and I may wish to amend that. This trailer is at 50 foot, and there are times when it does feel rather too long. Go ahead, Zach. Go ahead. That's what she said. I said it for you. Right. Maneuver around here. I think we're close enough. Right, let's shut her down. It's right in the way, but hey, that's okay. Let's take a look at what we've added, or what I'm working on adding, I really should say. I'm not going to run through the Mack Pinnacle. There's a lot of people who have previewed, and a lot of people who have got a first drive or a first look at the truck. I'm not going to try and repeat the same content, but we're going to the engine. Now, let's look at, I'll filter it on 2007. I think there's a Detroit Diesel Series 60 that's the same. Yes, there is, okay. Yes, 2007, and we'll go ahead and filter that by Mack. Right, so yeah, the Econodyne, the Maxi Cruise. Is there also a Maxidyne in here as well? No, there isn't. That's fair enough. So the Econodyne and the Maxi Cruise, slightly different flavors of engine. Not particularly going to detail those today, other than that's the range. So there are 4 MP7s. Filter this down a little bit more. Here we go. 325, 345, 365, 395. The Mack Anthem has the 345, 365, and 395 as stock. The headline numbers are the same until you look at where the peak torque is generated at 1200 RPM. The more modern MP7 produces its peak torque a little lower down in the rev range. Now, give these engines the credit though. Peak torque is very close to peak torque, I should say, at 1100 RPM. It's just not quite. They also tend to be able to rev generally a little higher than the older engines. And what I find on the road is that they feel a little gutless in the lower half of the rev range, but they most definitely come alive in the higher half of the rev range. Whereas the more modern MP7 feels stronger lower down. So it's reflecting how modern engines have, or how engines have evolved. These have been fun to kind of hoof around with, and I would say that they are pretty much ready. I may have been working on some slightly older but current named generation engines for Mack for a while. Let's look at the MP8. Yep, so 4 variants here. The 415, that's familiar to everyone, I'm sure. The 445 is also familiar. But there are 2 in the middle. There's a 425 that has a little less torque than the 415. and a little more power. And as you might expect, that needs a few more revs. And the 485, which has the same torque as the other, there's two of the other three engines, but 485 rated horsepower, as opposed to 505, which is the current high-spec MP8. Again, similar trend. They need more revs to perform versus the older ones. And the last one I want to look at, does it let me? It does let me do this. So the 2010s, there are two here: the 555, the Maxidine, and the 605 Maxi Cruise. Now the 605 is the one I have pretty much seen on Truck Paper and other websites. I don't think I've seen a 555, or very, very rarely. The Maxi Cruise has pretty much the same drive characteristics as the smaller Maxi Cruises. There's just more of it, and there's lots of it. 2060 foot-pounds of torque, that's a good chunk's worth of torque. Now the Maxidine, that's interesting because that will rev higher. In fact, Mack specify a much wider operating engine range with the Maxidine. Yes, the Maxidine, as in the old-fashioned Maxidines that would let you run from 1200 to 2100 RPM. Where would you use a Maxidine? Well, maybe for vocational uses. Maybe you only want to give a driver a 9-speed manual, and you want him or her to be able to concentrate on the job at hand without having to change gear 17 times to go between low and 8 high. Maybe. I think we're going to install the Maxidine. Now let's take a look at transmissions. Oh, quite a few. Now I may not have named these entirely accurately, and that's completely okay. They are still prototype. I'm still playing around with them. Yeah, the 309, that's configured as a 6+3, so it's got gears 1 to 6 and 3 crawler gears. I may well go ahead and change that, but that appeared to be how they were set up. Yeah, I might play around with a TM 309. It might be a 309M now I think about it, but like I say, the naming conventions, it's usually a later stage, because that's something I can do without launching the game. The 313s, yep, so again, configured as a 12-speed plus a crawler. I've just been using one of those. The TM313 Maxi Torque ES 3.70, bit of a mouthful. And finally, the 18 speeds. Yeah, okay, for whatever reason they're not working in this game load. I messed up one of the configurations. So just take it as I guess that I am working on them. I guess we'll play around with one of these. Let's be a little, let's say aggressive. Let's go with a 355 and the 555. Okay. I guess that's it. Nothing else I really need to change. Let's go ahead and confirm that order like so. Shouldn't need any work to be done, and we're not going to take a cargo. I'm just going to make sure that it doesn't it runs okay. I think I'm a bit low on fuel as well. I got a quarter tank. Okay, that should be good. Okay. So putting it in essentially automated mode, it's once to use the third crawl gear off the line. That's fair enough. I will switch to manual in a little bit, but we're going to just feather the throttle and maneuver around here, I think. Now, light throttle is where they're typically going to whipsaw. So I'm very happy that the engine has... I haven't tested this one yet, but I based the shift points on a combination of looking at the engine and power and torque curve and other engines I've used that are similar, and we have some Maxidines. I've worked on some Maxidines before. It's an interesting engine. Not going to give it its head just yet, and by that I'm not going to give it a bit of power. I'm going to take a look. I mean, right now it is behaving as I would expect it to. There are some quite wide gaps between those ratios, but it's not whipsawing. It's not sort of changing up and changing down rapidly, which is very good. It would be useful to find some cargo to haul, but I can get a pretty good feel for it just driving it without anything on the back. Deadheading, that's what it's called. Alright, so we'll stop here. Let's zoom the map out a little bit. There's a lot of places we can go visit, but I don't really have a plan or anywhere I particularly need to go. So we'll just head up. I guess let's be Texan about it. We'll head up yonder. It's so utterly meaningless. Okay, so we go from third crawl to some, I guess, 3 low to second, and then I didn't skip anything to go to third, but I'm being very careful. If I give it a boot full of power, will it skip? Well, I lifted off because we reached 30, and it's still showing third. Let's try fourth manually. Yeah, that's why. There's a big gap. It's a bit of a Mack thing. I'm going to turn left because we can turn right. So I'm going to turn right even because we can turn right on a red. We may break a speed limit or two here. Okay, he's stopping. He's not stopping. No. Quick, follow that SUV. I'm going to run the red light because I'm such a bad boy. Right, this is where I want to turn right, so we'll turn right here. That's full power, so we get a downshift, that's good. I'm at full power right now, and I don't want it to change up, which is nice, it's not. I did a brake fairly aggressively around that corner there. So I am going to basically lift off at 55 or close to, there we go, and hit cruise. And wonderful, it shifts up into 6th gear. So the progressive shifting is working exactly as it should. Alright, well, so far so good. Let's go ahead and punch it up to 70 using cruise control. Let's pull in front of this approaching motor car. That is it's pulling very nicely. And of course it should. We've got stacks of torque. I also didn't hit 70, I hit 65. Yeah, we got a bunch of torque. Right, let's go ahead and put it in manual mode. I'm going to let the thing drop down to 55. Let's go ahead and use the engine brake. Let's downshift it. Okay, so 5th gear at 55 is what, 1600 revs? And 1155, 1175 maybe in top. So it's just under peak torque, and that's completely fine. This is the tallest final drive I'm proposing to use, so that works for me. Right, let's squirt it up to 80. So I'll cruise up to 80 and off we go. Yeah, there's a very solid performer. The 605 will have a higher top speed potential, but its acceleration is going to be comparable and below about 50. Because it doesn't need the power so much, it needs the torque. And this thing's got boatloads of torque. Whip up the inside of this truck. Yeah, that feels very performant. Okay, well, I don't propose to do anything too silly, anything else silly with the MP10, but I just wanted to show that yeah, I am working on it. There's a good chance that by the time you're watching this video, the 2010 MP10 has been out for a while, or at least a few days. Yeah, it's very revvy. It really doesn't need. I mean, with the right gearbox, we wouldn't need 13 speeds. We wouldn't need 18 speeds. We probably wouldn't even need 9. It hits the governor with such a bang. Even that's the third gear. Noodles of torque. Let's skip a gear. Oh, down to 800, but yeah, you wouldn't want to do this to your own truck. But I'm giving it lots of power, and it's picking up very strongly now. Go ahead and run that light, because yeah, it's got a very muscular feeling, and it really should. I mean, it's a 16-litre inline 6, and Volvo used this engine to great effect, or use the basics of this engine to great effect in Europe, where it's I think it's 750 horsepower is the current high spec. So yeah, it's nice and stompy. I'm just gonna drive like a hooligan through this. Oh, I kind of need fuel, but yeah. Okay, let's put it back into automated mode. I guess we will go ahead and just weigh ourselves, seeing as we're right here. Hours till I gotta take my break. I could probably squeeze another job in for the rest of the day. But it's Thursday morning at 7:30. I mean, who doesn't want to go for a job? Okay, £38,500, but that does include the trailer. So I mean, we do have some load on there. Okay, well that just about wraps up today's video. I just really wanted to give everyone a bit of a preview of some engines I'm working on, and I'm actually in two minds. I might just go ahead and make this video available much sooner than my original plan, as a bit of a teaser. I don't really use YouTube to advertise. I have tongue-in-cheek, but to advertise my mod and the stuff I'm doing on it. But maybe people are interested in just seeing a bit about what's going on under the skin. Every time I think to myself, oh, what engine am I going to work on next? There's a reason why there's an engine I'd like to work on, and this place has gone downhill. That burnt out car wasn't there a short time ago. Huh. You know what? This is good enough to kind of stop. I'm not going to permanently stay here, but yeah, so I don't usually use the YouTube platform as a sort of, hey, I'm working on this. I work on stuff and then they get published, and that's it. But the Pinnacle is an interesting truck. It's more of the same from the Mack stable, but I like it. I'm a fan of Mack trucks. I like the Anthem and I like this. It's suitably different, but also the same. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed today's video. If you have, you know what to do. If you didn't like it, you also know what to do. And hopefully, I'll see you in the next video. Take care, everyone. Goodbye.